All right, guys, how's it going? In this video, we're going to be talking about Marc Guehi and this very concerning article that's come out of Madrid. Now, Marc Guehi's never really mentioned over here in Spain, to be honest with you. The Twitter twats might want you to think that, the content instigators, the clickbait farms and all that, maybe even the British tabloids have, made out that Barcelona and Real Madrid are chasing him. But the reality is, the credible journalists, they've never mentioned Marc Guehi, hardly, once or twice. I'll explain that a little bit later. As to what they've previously said, but this is the first real big write-up about him, and we're going to go over it. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the journalist. I don't think it's necessary to read the entire article to you. I have it here on my tablet, but I do have some notes, a brief summary for you, which is probably more helpful. Dave's verdict and intuition as well. Dave's my AI assistant that I have trained for more than a year to analyze these articles. It's not just, AI, look at that for me. Now, specifically trained, as some of you know. I've also made some notes myself about all this, right? Now, if you enjoy this video as you're going through it, as you're watching it, or at the end of the video, I'd really appreciate if you take time to thumbs up the video. It helps my channel a lot, especially if you, find the video interesting. Drop me a comment, okay? There's a love out under the video if you want to support my channel, and there's links in the video description that also enable you to do that via other methods. We'll speak about them at the end of the video. So where shall we start? Right. To start with, Marc Guehi's never mentioned over here, right? I know the people want you to think that and to be concerned and worried, but you know that I always shut that down and say, guys, they ain't saying nothing about him out here. The journalist that's closest to Real Madrid and Florentino Perez, the president, is Jose Felix Diaz, right? He used to write for Marca. He was with them for 31 years, I think. Recently switched to this publication, which is AS, the rivals. And he's the only one that's really touched on Marc Guehi before of any, anything worth looking at, but only to say Real Madrid were not interested in him, right? All of those articles were about Canate. We'll also be talking about him today. He gets a mention in here as well. I did message Jose Felix Diaz the other day, actually, about Canate. Haven't heard back yet, but he's a very, very busy guy. So, yeah, Jose Felix Diaz has previously mentioned Marc Guehi, but only in the context of he's obviously a good player, but Real Madrid are all focused on Canate, and they're not looking at Marc Guehi. He's going to Liverpool, that kind of thing, all right? So today, this article is a bit of a surprise, to be honest with you, all right? And I'm going to take you through it and explain why it's concerning. So first of all, the article is headlined, Real Madrid sound out Marc Guehi, right? It's the sounding him out, basically his entourage, his camp, his representation. It's written by a journalist called Marco Ruiz, right? Or Ruiz, depending how you want to pronounce it, depending which part of Spain you're in, who is a long-standing Real Madrid reporter for this publication. He's not a reckless rumour merchant, and generally works within the club briefing ecosystem rather than pure speculation. He's worth listening to. Key points about his reputation is often used to soft float Madrid interest without committing the club. A bit like Jose Felix Diaz does, right? He's reliable on who Madrid are monitoring. This is what this is basically saying. Less reliable on whether a deal will actually happen, right? AS articles like this are frequently positioning pieces, signalling awareness, leverage, which is important, or optionality rather than imminent action. And to be honest with you, that's what this article comes across like. He is not known for inventing links, but Madrid interest equals Madrid intent, all right? This matters a lot for Guehi. So, in other words, what he's wrote, you would pay attention to him. You'd be interested to see what he's saying. It's probably a briefing from Real Madrid, okay? Now, I won't go through the entire article, with you. Real Madrid sound out Marc Guehi. The club contacts the Crystal Palace centre-back's entourage to make him aware of their interests and points towards the future should they decide to pursue the deal. Decide. This article is full of a lot of if they decide to, if they want to. Do you know what I mean? It's like the article comes across as, we're sounding him out. We're sounding out that side to see, is he really going to Liverpool? Is there a deal in place there, which is mentioned in this article? That question. basically sounding out, which is exactly what the headline says, but it's full of should they decide, all right? So should they decide to pursue the deal? Talks about Marc Guehi, his age, his position, represents England, currently plays for Palace, has become one of the main options being considered by Real Madrid. Look at this non-committal stuff, right? So we've already got should they decide, being considered. Should they decide to reinforce the centre of defence in the upcoming summer transfer window? So already another should they decide, that's two. According to this publication, they say the club has shown interest in the player and has made his entourage aware that they are conscious of his contractual situation and that should they decide to move forward, they would resume contact. So in other words, they've done the inquiry. If they decide to follow up, they'll be back to speak to them. Guehi's contract with Palace expires next June. Madrid have several other options on their agenda besides Guehi, such as Ibrahima Konate. We'll do a video specifically about that, okay? Otherwise, this will take forever. And also Upamecano, who are also out of contract. However, as this newspaper has been reporting, the Madrid club are unwilling to enter bidding wars for any player. And in these latter two cases, the agents involved have escalated their salary demands to a level that moves them away from Madrid's idea of how to strengthen the position. Very, very, very interesting regarding Konate, but we should stick to the other video about that. We know, or I told you in a mail stand video before it was claimed that Real Madrid had ended their interest in Konate, that it was claimed that Real Madrid were getting pissed off with his agent. This backs it up again. But this isn't about Konate. We'll touch on that in another video. In this initial approach regarding Guehi, Real Madrid expressed concern to the player's entourage about the possibility that the defender might already have a pre-agreement in place with Liverpool, as has been reported in the English press. That is far from the reality. So the suggestion is here, we spoke to the agent, and the agent said, no, far from the case. That's not the case at all. Talks about how Liverpool came close to selling him and why that deal fell apart. According to information reaching AS, Liverpool remain interested in Guehi. But the situation has changed radically for the player, and any negotiation would have to start from scratch and under conditions different from those agreed last summer. We've heard those suggestions before. Seems like a bit of common sense. I feel like the journalist is clutching here. I don't believe he's really being told that. I think he's just using that common sense thing as thinking that's what the case must be. Talks about Guehi's now out of contract. He can't negotiate with the overseas clubs, etc. And wants to keep all options open until the next transfer window in order to choose the best move for himself, given the number of top-level clubs knocking on his door, including Real Madrid. Furthermore, Guehi would give total priority to Madrid should they decide, again, to move for his signing. For him, as for so many footballers, it would be a dream move. There's the propaganda. However, he is waiting for Madrid's internal situation to become clearer. There's one more paragraph. Madrid will therefore be able to open talks with the player from 1st of January. They're explaining his contractual situation. The club, Real Madrid, are monitoring how events unfold within their squad. As Rafa Benitez would say, squad, for sure, between now and the end of the season. So a brief summary. AS claim Real Madrid have made contact with his representatives to register interest. This is not a formal bid, more a we're aware, stay available move, which is often what they do, right? Madrid are also tracking Konate and Upamecano, but dislike bidding wars and rising wage demands. AS explicitly say Guehi does not have an agreement with Liverpool, despite English media reports. Liverpool nearly signed him, blah, blah, blah. Deal collapsed. Guehi is now out of contract in June, wants to wait, and is keeping options open. AS state Guehi would prioritise Madrid if they act, but Madrid haven't committed. From the 1st of January, he's legally free to negotiate with them. So, a lot of this totally contradicts what we're hearing from people that claim to be close to Guehi. All right? Is it the agent keeping options open? Is it leverage against Liverpool to get a better deal? All right, got to think about that. I don't mean this journalist is trying to help Liverpool. I mean the agent could be feeding this to a journalist which knows it's going to be published in Spain, which Liverpool will hear about. Mark my words, Liverpool will have read this word for word today. So Dave's verdict and intuition, right? This is Dave, my AI assistant. And like I say, a lot of people just use fucking AI and don't really know how to use them. Dave has been trained specifically for this shit, right? As many of you will know. And he's a great help to me. He identifies things that I miss, and he also keeps a log of everything by every journalist we talk about on here. So we get to see any flip-flopping and stuff like that. Dave's instincts, he says, Madrid are covering themselves in case Canate renews at Liverpool, or their defensive situation worsens, or Liverpool look too confident. The article repeatedly stresses if Madrid decide. That's not accidental. This feels more like pressure being applied to Liverpool and Guehi's camp than Madrid gearing up to close. For Liverpool, the article actually confirms Liverpool's long-standing interest, also confirms the summer deal collapsed late, not because Guehi chose otherwise. Nothing here suggests Guehi's cooled on Liverpool in the article. If anything, Madrid's name appearing now strengthens Liverpool's hand in January talks. My call, Dave's call, if Liverpool want him and handle January properly, Guehi to Liverpool on a free still looks the most logical outcome. Madrid feel like the optional lever, not the destination, at least for now. And then I made some notes myself, okay? And I'm just going to read from this. This is my notes. Key things to note from this article. First thing that jumps out straight away is the language. It's very conditional. You keep seeing phrases like, should they decide to move forward, if Madrid decide, would resume contact. That's classic Real Madrid positioning language. There's interest, but no commitment. It's Madrid keeping options warm rather than rolling up their sleeves. Secondly, despite their collaboration piece from David Ornstein, because remember, David Ornstein published an article saying he collabed with the Real Madrid journalists from The Athletic and the La Liga journalists in general from The Athletic. The three of them wrote this joint piece which felt like Real Madrid and Liverpool killing the suggestion that Canate would go out there, right? That was basically it was very weird how it came out. So despite that collaboration piece from Ornstein, this article clearly suggests Real Madrid are still very much interested in Ibrahima Canate. AS explicitly list him alongside Upamecano as a free agent option Madrid are tracking. That tells you the Ornstein piece hasn't killed the Madrid narrative internally, at least not from the Spanish side. Very, very, very good to point this out. On that note, as I have told you, I've messaged Jose Felix Diaz about Canate, all right? And we'll talk about that in the other video that I do for you. Now, what I must say here is Ornstein and the other two journalists were trying to kill the suggestion of Canate to Real Madrid. Jose Felix Diaz has never responded to that, which I find strange. Again, we should talk about that in the other video. Now, when it comes to Guehi, the article makes a point of saying Madrid have contacted his entourage, not the player directly. That's important. An entourage being open doesn't mean a move is closed. It can just as easily mean they're doing their job and leveraging interest. And let's be honest, nothing sharpens Liverpool's pen quicker than Real Madrid suddenly hovering in the background, which brings us to the most interesting line in the entire piece, in my opinion. Guehi would give total priority to Madrid should they decide to move for his signing. For him, as for so many footballers, it would be a dream move. However, he is waiting for Madrid's internal situation to become clearer. That sentence does a lot of heavy lifting for AS. It flatters Madrid, keeps the door open, and crucially buys time. But it also confirms something else. Madrid haven't moved yet. Guehi is waiting, and while he waits, Liverpool remain very much in the picture. And the emphasis is he's waiting for Madrid's internal situation. So in other words, Madrid, if you believe the article, don't even know what they're going to do yet. That sentence, which I've just quoted to you, does a lot of heavy lifting. I did all that. So overall, what this feels like is classic transfer chess. Madrid keeping their name in the conversation. Done on purpose. Guehi's camp strengthening their negotiating position, which could be to secure a better deal with Liverpool, and Liverpool watching closely, knowing January is key. And as ever with Madrid, interest is cheap, action is what matters. And they might be, they could be putting this out there to do with Konate. I'm very suspicious of the Konate situation. Real Madrid interested in him for so long, want him front page shit and everything. The main man, Jose, Felix Diaz going in with it all. And then all of a sudden, Real Madrid don't want him. And many Liverpool fans like myself might think, is that because he was playing shite at the time? But you've got to remember that mail stand email where the author claimed that Real Madrid had got pissed off with his agent because they thought a deal was done. All right? They informally done, informally agreed. But the claim was that the agent was still offering him around, right? Which would is backed up if you think by this article, because this article says is proving too expensive. They're coming in with stupid demands, which you can imagine an agent, the founder, hang on a minute, you've come back for more money. Well, yeah, we're talking to Milan. But I thought we had a deal agreed. Pissed off with him. And then all of a sudden, that article came out saying they weren't interested anymore. Maybe they were trying to put the shits on Konate, up Konate and his agent. There's something not right with the Konate Real Madrid stuff, guys. I've been saying this ever since that article came out. And I'm sure at one point we will understand it a little bit more. But for the time being, that is what this article is claiming with regards Real Madrid. This is the first piece since the summer, all right, significant piece, suggesting we might just fucking go and do something like. But is it because they really want him and really consider him, or is it to put pressure on Upamecano or Konate? All right. Now, I haven't got the answers for you. Maybe you have. You can leave a comment for it. Collectively, we work great together. I know there's a lot of people out there that want to go, exclusive, I can tell you this is happening. Well, I can't tell you what's happening because I don't fucking know. But something ain't right. Okay? Now, everyone associated to Marc Guehi and his family say he's not the sort of person that will fuck you over. But changing your mind and going, well, I'm going to go to another club isn't fucking you over. I don't think so. We're all allowed to change our minds and make the right decisions for us and our families, right? But people close to him say, if he said to Liverpool, I give you my word, I will come to you, that him and his family, his upbringing, they're the sort of people that would stick to him. All right? But I still find this a concerning article. It's the first one since the summer. All right? That's it. Okay? If you enjoyed this video or found it informative, please thumbs up the video. Please drop me a comment. I think your comments on this will be very interesting. Keep an eye on the comments. They're always you pick loads of stuff up in the comments. Honestly, I read them sometimes. I go, I never thought of that. Even me, don't knows best, right? If you want to support my channel, gun to your head. There's a love art under the video called a super thanks. I'm super and I deserve a thanks. All right. Okay. And you could become a channel member if you wanted to as well. They're the people with the football next to the name in the comments. They're royalty around these parts. All right. Or alternatively, there's 3 links in the video description, which are other ways of supporting me, but they're more like have a beer. The love arts, get the bills paid. Revolut, for example, my favourite one in the video description, go and get yourself a fucking drink, fuck the electric. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. I wouldn't be able to do this channel if it wasn't for you guys. I don't sensationalise, I don't clickbait, I don't make shit up. I don't capitalise on shit for the sake of doing it. I only make videos when I think that there's something worth discussing, and this absolutely is worth discussing, and I'll keep an eye on it for you. All right, guys? Like I say, I have messaged Jose, or if I hear back from him, he usually responds, I will let you know. But that will be in a video about Konate, which we're going to go and take a look at in a moment if I've got time. Gotta go. All right, guys? Thumbs up, comment. Fantastic. Well, it's fantastic if you hit that love out and get me a beer. All right, guys? See you in a bit.